Hell Kite presents An Hour in Hell, Episode 3 with Grant Boobar.
Hello! Welcome to Hell Kite Podcast, Episode 3. Wait a second. I wrote lines down on my phone of what to say to introduce. You'd think I would have gotten the lines out. Welcome to, in parentheses, name episode 3 of the Hell Kite Podcast, where I, Jackson Rao, explore new music and get to know fellow artists. With me today is...
Grant Boobar?
It says in parentheses, introduce guest, so I think I'm supposed to.
Oh, well, I can't read what you have on your phone. So.
Grant Boobar.
Yep, you nailed it. Good job.
I actually didn't know how to say your last name, so I was gonna be like Grant, and then let you interrupt me.
Okay, you want to try that?
With me today is Grant
Boobar.
Boobar, of course.
Yes.
I knew that. Okay.
Obviously. Wow.
Obviously.
Professional.
Professional. So, Grant, I actually will just briefly talk about what you're...
Sure.
I mean, you can expand on this. So you're in a band called the Ladyfingers. You play
Yes.
around the valley here, and you've been in a band for what, 3 or 4 years? Longer?
For almost 5 years. But in our present form, with the current members, it's been about like a year and a half. We've had a lot of membership
Oh, have
changes.
you? I actually didn't
Yeah.
know, because I've only known you for like a year and a half.
Sure, yeah. So back when I was in high school, the band started, and I played guitar. I play drums now, but I play guitar, and then we went through 2 drummers. We had a solid drummer for like a year and a half. He went to college. Then I picked up drums.
Oh, that's okay. Now
Yeah.
I remember this because I think you've told me about this.
Mhm.
You used to play what, rhythm guitar?
Rhythm guitar, yeah.
And did you sing?
I sung like background stuff, yeah.
But Sam, the
Sam
lead singer,
is
did a
still-
lot of
yeah.
the singing.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's fucking
Mhm.
awesome. And what else are you involved in? Anything else you want to talk about, like a side project, or I'm not sure.
I mean,
Maybe you want to keep that secret.
well, not really. I play drums for like other bands, you know. I'm playing drums for Sad Park, obviously.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so he also plays drums for Sad Park. I'm the former drummer of that band.
That's right. I
So
kicked
there's
you out.
a lot of tension in this room right now.
Like when I saw him today, I almost punched him.
And I almost fucking punched him too.
It's true. It was bad.
We would have punched each other simultaneously,
yeah,
and
and
then there would have been no
podcast
episode 3. Yeah. No, there's nothing going on.
No,
Grant's a good friend of mine.
It's all love.
I think the reason I had you on over the other Ladyfingers, this is not to cast shade. I just want to explain myself. First of all, I can only have one person on at a time because I only have 2 microphones.
That makes sense. Yeah.
right.
Yes.
So that's simple mathematics.
logistics.
Secondly, I've known you. You were the first Ladyfinger I met.
Yeah.
I'm referring to you as a Ladyfinger. It's
Well, that's
kinda weird.
that is the correct singular term.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we met just because as a drummer, I appreciated the drumming you were doing with Sad Park, and I came up
Thank
to
you.
you. I believe my compliment was your right foot timing is incredible. And you were probably like, what a fucking nerd. What a shitty compliment.
I actually, I was thinking about this the other day because I was like excited to have you on, and I was thinking, how did we meet? Because I know I met you before any of the other Ladyfinger dudes.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, we must have played a show together. He is a drummer. I do meet most drummers first.
Sure. As drummers do.
As drummers do.
Because the guitarists are dicks to most of the drummers. So the drummers
Yeah, they're
gotta-
like, get the, what?
It's like literally anyone can do your job. And
hey, you're
like,
really good. I'm a drummer. And they're like, okay, whatever.
they're like, cool. Where's
Cool.
the
Yeah,
real
my
band members?
drummer's over. Hey, Grant, can you come talk to this fucking retard? He's saying something about hitting drum. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're talking about real music over here. G chords, C chords.
G chord, C chord, G
Real
A C.
music.
But the reason I had you on also was because you do a lot of songwriting for Ladyfingers.
Yeah, so it's, depending on which album you're listening to, it's somewhere between like either 50-50 between me and Sam, who is the lead singer and the lead guitarist. But a lot of times, like our biggest EP, Couches, was all songs that I wrote, and then Sam sort of came in and we sort of fixed them a little bit. But for like a majority of the songs is just me, recording it drunk on my iPhone and then sending it to the rest of the band and being like,
As you do.
can
What do
we
you
make
think?
this a song?
Is
Yeah.
this not shit? They're like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
So it's fun. And then you write all the songs for Good Boy?
Yeah. Let me count. Yes. Every song.
Every 100% of them. No, you do all your Hell Kite stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way to plug my own Hell Kite thing, because honestly, the reason I started this podcast was so that I can listen to more music and explore more music and talk to artists so that I could make better music. Like, basically the whole point.
Oh, I 100% understand that. Even something simple as like writing drum parts for new Sad Park songs, it's like, if I'm just listening to the same stuff over and over again,
You're just gonna
I
regurgitate
hear myself
it.
just like, oh, I've already written like this exact part.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I
mean,
get that.
Especially recently, I think I've come across some albums that I was like, this changed my perception of music in the best possible way. And then it dawned on me, I was like, oh shit, the way that I have to make good music is to listen to good music, new music. You know what I mean?
Oh, I definitely agree with that.
So I was trying to figure out a way to, like, without sounding like a total ass, being like, also I make music on Hell Kite. That's my,
I feel like that's fine.
Is it?
Well, like earlier we were talking about comedians doing their podcasts and they're always plugging like, yeah, I'm headlining this and this show, come out, I
Yeah.
feel like it's fine to just be like, hey, if you like hearing me talk, how about you hear me sing?
Yeah, in that case, I do have my own solo project. I play drums in Good Boy, but then I also have Hell Kite, which is my sort of my one-man band venture. And
it's cool.
Thank you very much. I'm
It's,
working on my new album right now, so.
Yeah, because the Hell Kite stuff is always a little, like, obviously it jams hard, but it's a lot more artsy than a lot of other music, because I always get the sense when I hear like the new singles you put out or whatever, that you're just trying to like not do the same shit.
Yeah, I mean,
over and over again.
I'm so glad that you said that, because that's like, to a fucking fault, that's like my main thing. And sometimes it just ends in disaster because I refuse to stick to like a convention that I really should stick to.
Yeah, no, I like, in all honesty, there are some times where I'm listening to like some of the songs and I'm like, I wish you expanded this idea more.
Yeah.
But then it's like, because you moved on to something else, if you weren't constantly moving from thing to thing, in a song and trying different stuff, you wouldn't have had that nugget of amazingness anyways.
Yeah,
so it's like,
that's what I mean to a fault. I mean, I still look back at songs and I'm like, should have written that differently, but it's too late. And it's like almost, you kind of just have to let it be. I'm sure as a songwriter, it's like you make this thing and then for better or worse, you're just like, you know what? That's what it is.
Sure.
Just let it live as that.
I get that.
Token.
Yeah, there's so many times when like I'll think like, ooh, maybe we can like make the song longer and add something else onto it that would make it great. And a lot of times with Ladyfingers, for example, I'm like, okay, this song doesn't need to be anything else. Like, it's fine the way it is. If it's a 2.5 minute long song, that's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like a 5-minute magnum opus.
Yeah. I mean, we're not all Radiohead out here. We can't fucking create masterpiece songs. Like, I think for me, when I make a song and I have that same thought as you, Grant, where I'm like this needs that extra thing, but I can't figure it out, so I'm gonna end it.
Yeah,
that's just me falling short as a songwriter. And
I don't know if I 100% agree with that, because it's the same thing where it's like, how effective is the song?
Yeah.
And just because you think it doesn't need something else, it would just be nice to have something, like, oh, that would be cool, but the bulk of the song without this addition is still fine. I feel like that's almost better, and that makes a song more effective, because it's like, you hear the song and you're just like, it ends at like, it's like 2.5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then instead of being like, dang, I wish that song was longer, I wish there was more to it, you just start the song again.
It's exactly what I thought.
And you're just like, give me more of that. Give me more, So
I think there's arguments to be made both ways.
Well, that's the podcast.
That's
right?
the podcast. So let's get into our first sort of section here. I have a new name for it. It's going to be called, wait, It was Buy It, Try It, Pass.
Buy it, try it, pass.
Here we go. Buy It, Try It, Pass. Yeah.
That's
I actually want to get a soundboard.
You should 100%.
That's
get a
my
soundboard.
next episode. I'll have a soundboard. So we listened to 2 albums, more or less. I mean, I know you didn't finish the second one all the way.
I didn't finish the second one, but I got a pretty good idea. I skipped through some songs because I was like...
So this is the section of the podcast where I give some albums that I find, through various channels. These 2 I found on Spotify Discover. They're new releases. Sure. I give them to my guests and we both listen to them for the first time off the air before the podcast, and then we kind of just briefly talk about our thoughts. And I try to kind of go for things that are a little bit new, but at the same time, this time I went through Spotify and it's like all that shit's an algorithm. Yeah. And so it's recommending me things that it thinks I'll like.
You already, yeah.
So in this case, you're going to be coming into my world. Mm-hmm. Whereas usually I'd like it to be the other way around, but it doesn't matter, honestly. Totally Either way, fine. We're both going to
talk about some shit.
So we'll start with the first album. It's called Tomorrow's Daughter by Matthew Sweet.
Yeah.
I think I'll just talk briefly about what I thought. So it's pretty long, actually.
Yeah, this is the one I didn't quite finish because I was just like, there's like 14 songs or something.
19. It's 19 songs.
Okay. Jesus.
So I think in a sentence or two to sum up my first listen, I really like this album. It's poppy, it's fun, it has hooks, which the next album that we'll talk about after this is like kind of a far cry from that.
It's the
different.
Opposite.
And it's so cool to have that sort of polarity because this album is just fun. It has this sort of 80s rock vibe right from the get-go. The first song, I think it's I Belong to You. I get the sense that this guy's kind of a one-man band deal. He's playing a lot of the parts, or he's masterminding it.
Yeah, if he's not playing it, he's definitely writing the parts.
Definitely writing it. I think melodically it's super strong. Like I was singing along to the third track called Lady Frankenstein. I was just like singing along to that. After it had stopped playing, I was like, it was stuck in my head.
Sure, I definitely get that. Like this, you nailed it with this album. It is like annoyingly poppy. In the best possible way.
Yeah.
It is just happy. It reminded me of like you said, 80s. I definitely agree with that. It has like this 80s pop to it. But then it also has like, I sort of got this vibe of like early 60s, like rock and roll sort of stuff. As far as just like the energy behind it, it's very just like, that early 60s rock and roll is just very like, you're just, you're happy the whole time. That's how I felt through like the 3/4 of this album that I listened to.
It also had like sort of that rock attitude, I felt like.
Yeah.
So it had those kind of riffs, those groove
it was just
guitar
like,
riffs that were just kind of repeating, and
it was just a happy good time. It's a very summery album.
And it does that classic thing that I actually really like in songs where it's like, let's start the song with the drum fill. Just fucking puts you right in. And then what I also do in my music that Matthew Sweet does is like, he'll rocket the song in with the drum fill, and then boom, you're in the fucking chorus. There's already melodies happening. It doesn't give you like that welcoming.
It doesn't always
period.
Build up. It's just like, hey, here's the
hook.
Here's the meat to the song. Yeah.
Exactly. And then from there, it's like explores the other parts, which I think that is a school of thought that's I really subscribe to for songwriting.
Sure. I mean, I definitely think there are times with this album where I kind of wish it built things a little bit more, just slightly. But for the most part, it worked to just sort of come in hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like a slight problem where sometimes I would hear the songs and I would just be like, I kind of know where this is going to go.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit formulaic, but I think for the style of music, it's exactly what it needed.
Yeah, it didn't need to be super crazy.
It didn't need to be crazy. It's fine to just go verse, chorus, bridge, chorus.
Yeah, but like good choruses.
Exactly.
Strong
and just
verses.
Catchy, happy music that you want to just like, play drums in your car.
It's a formula for a reason, because when the formula is done
exactly
really, really well, you forget it's even a formula because even as a musician, where we're like well aware of these kind of tropes, we're still like, I like this. You know what I mean?
You're into it. It works exactly like you said.
So my
It's a formula for a
final
reason.
sort of score in terms of buy it, try it, pass, I would say buy it for me.
Yeah, if you like happy music, you should buy this. And
Yeah.
if you like sad music, you should buy this and learn to like happy music.
Yeah, because you sound like a depressing person.
Exactly.
But also it's accessible.
It's because it's not obnoxiously happy.
Yeah.
It's just poppy and a good time.
It's also a little I get the sense it's kind of self-deprecating. It sounds like he's singing from I'm the guy that never gets the girl kind of attitude.
Well, not to be that guy, have you take a look at what he actually looks like?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like kind of like an older dude. At least his Spotify photo is.
Oh, wait.
Uh-huh.
Let me it says like it recommends you might also like power pop for this, which I get that. Let's view the artist. We're just bagging on this guy. Yeah, he is an older guy. I get that sense because he has this music kind of has a little bit of soul. Doesn't sound like it's
Yeah, no,
it doesn't sound like it came out this year.
It doesn't exactly. It doesn't. It sort of sounds like this dude like got his songwriting chops where they need to be in like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And then just kept doing that shit for the next like 25 years.
Yeah, so it's a buy it for both of us.
Yeah,
it looks like.
definitely buy it.
Cool. So next album and the last album of this
I'm gonna
podcast.
Just raise this mic really quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Here, wait, let me tighten.
I got it.
You got it. So the Big Ups is the next band. Their album is called Two Parts Together. It has a pretty cool album cover now that I
Yeah, the
look
album
at
cover was really, really tight.
So the last guy that we were talking about, Matthew Sweet, I came into that not knowing who he was at all.
Mm-hmm.
Just listening to that album. I know who the Big Ups are. I've heard a little bit of their music before. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. And then, but I was still really blown away. I'd like to hear what you thought about this album because I kind of have a grip.
Sure. So with this album, I definitely listened to all of this. For the most part, I thought it was pretty good. You know, it is definitely kind of a harder album, but it definitely just struck me as something that when I was listening to it, I was like, I feel like when you were with Sad Park, I was like, this is what you were probably like listening to and drawing.
Yeah.
Something like this, you know, because it's hard. The drums aren't like super metally or proggy. They're pretty simple, but then the structure of the songs is not simple at all.
Yeah.
You know, the songs are structured, lots of mixed meter, you know, 3/4. I think there was some 7/4 in there, definitely
Wow.
some 6/4 stuff. So it was cool. It was like, it kind of had like a proggy feel to it in the sense that they weren't being super straight with everything, but at the same time, it wasn't as technical. So, you know, it's not prog because it's not that technical. So it's just interesting mix of playing with the structure while still keeping it listenable, which was cool. And I definitely give the album a lot of props for that. And it also changed it up. You know, some songs were like this harder sort of like, you know, just driving thing. And then some songs were really soft and, you know, pretty.
That's true. I think there was a good mix. I really liked, I'm trying to think which song.
I liked, I think it's called Fear.
Yeah.
That song was sick.
Also, they have a decent length so like, I think they're averaging around 4 minutes.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the songs I also noticed, like, I would be listening to it in my car, you know, just driving, and I would hear like a new song start, but it wasn't a new song. It was just the second half of a song, and it was just.
It's almost like you could break up some of these songs.
You definitely could, and they just sort of were just like, nope, this is one song, which is cool, and I respect that. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't super totally enamored with this album. I respect it. I thought it was cool. But for me, it's just like that style of music. It was just kind of vague to me. You know, it didn't get me viscerally like
yes,
like the Matthew Sweet did.
Yeah.
You know? I wasn't tapping my toe to it. I was just sort of like, this is cool.
I think that's really the separation between like an amazing album, and that's where individual preferences
Sure,
come
because
in,
that's
right?
what it is. Because it's like I heard it and I was like, I know this is good, but I wouldn't want to like listen to it over and over.
It's
again.
the emotional aspect, I think, because if you can emotionally identify with a song and find yourself in it and kind of get lost in the world,
Sure.
then that song succeeded in being good to you.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like that with Matthew Sweeter. Like he was telling me the story, and I kind of like envisioned him singing to me a little bit.
You
know
can
what I
see
mean?
yourself at like one of his shows and just being
Yes.
like, I'm into this.
This album by the Big Ups is definitely less accessible than Matthew Sweet.
Oh yeah.
I didn't deliberately plan the way
Sure.
that these two contrasted each other, but it actually works out pretty well because when Matthew focused on really catchy hooks, pretty simple structures, you know, catchy guitar lines and things
Yeah.
like that, the Big Ups sort of take the conventions and crumple them up and throw them aside to an extent.
Yeah.
They
like,
don't go full blown prog.
Yeah, and it's not like what's that Captain Beefheart album, like Trout Mask Replica or whatever.
I've never heard that.
Oh, it's obscene.
Like
It's-
just really crazy progressive.
it's just like 17 people playing different things at the same time.
Yeah, like all soloing,
It's
all
just
shit like that.
It's not like that. Like it is a song. You hear it and you're like, this is a song. This is cool.
Yeah.
But it is just different enough where it's like, I know what they were trying to do. They were just trying to write different stuff, you know, sort of like how you were saying you try and be different to a fault.
Yeah.
I sort of
They
felt,
hit the fault.
yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Where I never really got into anything and it was just not, it seemed kind of disingenuous, you know? It seemed like they were writing the music more than sort of feeling the music.
So wait, to be clear, are you talking about this other band or you're talking about the Big Ups album?
The Big Ups.
Okay, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. I actually agree with you. I think I mean I like the Big Ups, so I'm a little biased. I like what I've heard before. And I think they do a cool job. The part that you gave them props for is like my main standing with
Yeah.
them is like they bridge that gap because they don't go full blown like YYZ instrumental
It's
crazy
not,
shit.
it is not prog music, but
It has progressive concepts that they apply.
I feel like they're probably, the members are all probably into prog music, but want to be in like kind of a punk adjacent band, you know?
Yeah, and it also kind of reminds me of like I'm trying to think of that band. Fuck, it's kind of like that 90s Rage Against the Machine.
You know, it's sort of felt like Rage Against the Machine. I was thinking that
It's not full like it doesn't have the hip hop roots.
it doesn't know, but like the grooves, when there were grooves there, like just the drum and the bass and guitar, like the rhythm of it was
Yeah.
very, when it was grooving, and I was into it.
Yeah.
But it's just that it changed so much, or it wasn't ever like as visceral as something like Rage Against the Machine was.
Yeah. And I think what I was saying is like they kind of bridge that gap. They keep that sort of hardcore aesthetic, but then they complement it with a little bit of you know, progressive attitude and
Yeah.
and the lyrics are very sort of I think vague is like kind of what you said, a great way to describe them. They're super vague and like I'll name you some of the titles. So Fear was one, Imaginary Dog Walker, Triple P, not Triple P, PPP,
PPP.
capitalized. In the Shade. In the Shade was actually my favorite song, now that I think of it.
Is In the Shade the first track?
It's the second track.
Okay, In the Shade was good. I think Fear is my favorite because Fear is kind of like, I think it's one of the singles off this album that they did, if you look on Spotify.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Which makes sense because it is definitely the most accessible. Like I would say, not to jump to the end of the segment, but like I'm gonna give this album a try it.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say listen to Fear. And then if you like that, then listen to the whole album.
That's a good starting point.
Yeah, because it's accessible, but you get an idea of what the album and the band is sort of like.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to end the segment because I don't have anything else to say about that.
It's pretty good.
For me, I think it's also a try it just because I like it. but I think it lacks a lot of accessibility, and that's a big problem for a lot of people.
Yeah. So like we were talking, I think it was on the podcast. I hope it was about just listening to lots of music to.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It was such a long time ago. I think if you are a musician, you know, if you are playing in a band where you have to either write the songs or write your own parts for songs, definitely listen to this album. You know, lots of cool stuff going on. But if you are just a casual listener of music, this album might not totally be for you.
Yeah, I think that's where I make it a try it.
Yeah,
And so also this is based off first impressions. Same with the last album.
exactly.
So I think I want to talk a little bit more about the Matthew Sweet album, just like a couple more sentences for me, because there's something to be said about the listenability. I was able to go back, and in fact, I think the album was better when I went back and re-listened to it, because then my brain was like, okay, I remember these hooks, and now I'm like,
You're
grooving.
into it. Yeah, definitely.
So
get that.
you know, and this album was the Big Ups album was less like that.
Well, I think it's definitely you will enjoy an album the second time or third time through it more. You know, my favorite artist is Jeff Rosenstock, and he released an album at the beginning of this year called Post. He's my favorite artist ever. And when I first heard the album, I was like, this is not good. I did not enjoy it. I was
Wow.
like, this is bad. But that's because all of his other albums I've listened to so much. I know all the songs.
We should have talked about that because I know how much you love that guy.
Sure, I don't want to talk about it too much because everyone who knows me is like, oh, Grant,
Shut up
about it. But my point is, after I listened to it, like every single time I listened to it, I enjoyed it more and more.
Weird how that works.
And then you sort of are just like, this is awesome. You know, he did a lot of stuff. He put a song that's like 8 minutes long, and it's like a 2-minute song, and then like a 4-minute just synth breakdown in the middle.
Wow.
And then it continues on for the last 2 minutes.
And you're like, well, what was that whole
I was
part?
just like, this is so weird. And then the more you listen to it, you're just like, this is sick. Like, I love this.
That's a great segue into what I think is something that I like to talk about to other musicians. So do you think that when you're writing a song, you should really just go for it in terms of, I'm going to make whatever I want to make? It doesn't have to, it can have a 4-minute synth solo, but you're not making it for the audience or the listener. Cause I'm sure he was like, they're going to love this. You know, it was more like, I'm going to separate the true listeners from the ones who don't give a shit.
Sure. Okay. So I have a lot of opinions on this.
Good.
Jeff, you may or may not know, is a very like DIY sort of guy. You know, his biggest band was called Bomb the Music Industry.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them.
So a lot of his music has sort of influenced the way I think about stuff. And philosophically, you know, is music art or is it a product? And I think the best sort of music sort of stumbles into being a product because the artist's sensibilities are so popular, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like someone like,
Yeah, give me an example.
I'll give you an example of just straight product and then straight art and then sort of a combination of the two. So Katy Perry, or someone like that, like a big pop star, that music is for like, you know, intents and purposes, that is a product because they're putting that together specifically. It's just like, here's the sweet chorus that people are going to like.
Super deliberate
with what they're doing. And it's formulaic, but on purpose. Like, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. It is designed. You know what I mean? The music is designed. Something totally artsy would be like something like Bjork, where you're like, okay, you listen to it and you're like, this is not designed. Like, you were just feeling this and you wrote this and you wrote this. Or something like old like folk punk stuff.
Folk punk.
Just like some like the old AJJ stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, you were just ramming on the guitar and the mandolin and you felt this and you screamed that.
Yeah, it has that chaos.
That's not always for everyone, right? But that is more of art of just you were just feeling that, you know? And then I think you have something like, I think the Beatles are a great example of, they were not making their music as like a product. They were doing it as like, I like this song. I like the way this sounds. This is happy. This is cool, you know? And it just so happened that their sensibility and the way that they wanted their song to sound was something that a lot of people agreed with.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it became successful. So I think the best music is genuine, you know, like that's why I love Jeff Rosenstock and Bomb the Music Industry, because not all of their music is great. You know, some of it is hard to listen to, but you know that he is saying exactly what he feels and he is playing exactly what he hears in his head. And that's how he wants everything to be. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I think that, as far as I'm concerned, is what defines good music, is the genuineness of it.
There's no sort of veil, right? Whereas I feel like Katy Perry was a great example of sort of, you can feel this sort of thin veil that's separating you from the artist.
Exactly. It's you, or just like she is performing her music. She isn't feeling her music. It's similar to, this is totally different, but it's very similar to like a classical musician.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I go to school for music, you know, and I perform classical percussion and stuff. And when I'm playing the snare drum part in, you know, Scheherazade, I'm not, you know, enamored by the snare drum part.
Yeah.
I'm just playing what's on the page and I'm doing it very well and I'm playing it musically. So it's like, someone who's playing violin in like the LA Phil is sort of tricking everyone into thinking that they're really into the music, even though they're just playing what's on the page and being musical about it. But it's disingenuous, but masking itself as
what they're doing is very systematic.
Exactly. It's systematically thinking about how to artificially portray emotion.
That's an amazing concept.
I've
never even thought about
That's a
that.
big word, but the same thing is sort of happening when Katy Perry does stuff. It's like, okay, you can tell that, like, you know, she's singing about this and that's cool. And you get what the feeling is supposed to be in the song, but you don't always get the sense that she is feeling that when she is performing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, this is fucking blowing my mind, because it's like an ancient question for me, because whenever we approach our writing pad, I don't actually use a fucking writing pad.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? When we start to write a song,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, best case scenario, it just fucking comes out of us. It pours out onto the page and it just happens. And within 20 minutes, you realize you have a full song and you need to record it all, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be done. And sometimes it happens. And other times you are sitting and you're trying to force something out. And I find when I'm trying to force an idea out, that's when I get super deliberate and am trying to plan everything so meticulously. And it almost always falls flat.
Yeah, well, because there's not that energy there. There's not that genuineness, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think I said off podcast, I believe, that I was listening to a lot of like Pinkerton lately. Just got super into that album. And like Weezer, like everyone loves the Blue Album. Everyone loves most bands' like first album, you know?
Yeah.
And Weezer's a great example of like the second album came out and it's pretty good. Like Pinkerton's a really good album, but it wasn't as good as the Blue Album. And as that band kept going, their albums kind of got like, they put out so much music. And you can just see like in each album, you're like, this was a song that they were just like, yeah, this is a song, whatever, we're putting this out, you know? So like with like a band's first album, like Sad Park, for example, like that first album, everyone likes it. You know what I mean? And then you guys put out that second album. So like, let's call it 10 songs. It's like a good first length album. And then it took like a year and a half or 2 years to get enough songs to get that next album out, because it takes time to like have those experiences develop into emotion that you can put into song.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you are trying to force that emotion out, it is just the Katy Perry shit all over again. And people are going to think of it like Weezer's second album. Where
I see what you mean. So you're saying that first album, Weezer's a great example. Their debut, is that actually their very first album?
I
they
think
have
so.
other things before that?
I believe the Blue Album is their first album.
I know it's
I'm
their
not the
first
world's
full-length album.
Biggest Weezer fan. Okay, but let's just say like first full length, like you have like, let's say Rivers wrote that when he was like, I don't know, let's say 20. That's probably young, but let's just say that he was 20. You have 20 years of experience and your teenage years that you are just drawing on for all this inspiration for this album, right?
Yeah.
And then you have that album out and those songs come out easy. and they're great and they're good, and you haven't written anything before that, so it's fine. And then that second album, you have like 2 years in between, and you're like, okay, I have 2 years of life I can draw on for another 10 songs or whatever. That's a significant less amount of just inspiration that you can draw from. And musically, it's like, okay, you can come up with an idea that sounds cool, but then the more you think about it, you're just like, this is just, the sweater song again or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of times I feel the same way. I'll be like writing a song and I'm like, whatever, I'll just go into this. And then I'll just sit there and I'll be like, I've already done that before. Like,
This
what's
is
the
lazy.
point? Yeah.
I mean, I don't like Pinkerton very much. I love the Blue Album.
See, why don't you like Pinkerton though?
So, I've only listened to it really like twice. So maybe it's one of those things I need to revisit, but I just don't think I like the aesthetic so much. I'm in love with the way it sounds and is recorded, because they did that kind of classic thing where Weezer's Blue Album was a sort of commercial effort. They had a lot of talented people producing it, behind it, and it sounds really good. It holds up. It has a cool 90s garage sound. Pinkerton is like their quote unquote back to roots of like everything's on tape and everything's super saturated and really like dirty and dry. And that for me is the best thing Weezer's done production-wise. The most significant impact they've made musically was the production of Pinkerton, the way it sounds. The songs and the actual content, I think it just didn't click with me. I really didn't like the message of Pinkerton. It's just comes off of super like arrogant and kind of douchey.
Yeah, well, it was definitely, I brought up like you have 2 years in between those two albums to write those songs, and it's like they got huge after the Blue Album. And so it's like, I feel like with a lot of those songs, you're just sort of like, he's just writing about like, he has that ego in him. Like,
he sounds like he's writing about how famous, the band is now and how hard it is to, I can't tell if it's a joke.
But then
I can't tell if it's
feel
serious
like
or not.
he's kind of like a weird introverted dude.
He is.
Because you listen to like the song I've been listening to forever from this album, like just on repeat, is El Scorcho. I fucking love that song. That song I think it's almost a perfect song. I think it's so cool. Talking about formula changes after the second chorus, it just goes into double time really quick. You're like, what is this? It's a really rad song. I think that is an example of, just sort of like, it is kind of weird and arrogant, but it's also him being like, yeah, I don't really know how to talk to this girl and I hope she likes me, and I think it sort of goes back to like that sort of shyness.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, I think that song is probably, in my opinion, the best song off that album.
I really like Tired of Sex.
The first song, when it has that synth in it, that's cool. And I think it's synth. Maybe it's just
it's some sort of synthesizer. I think that's a good introduction to the album, and I really like that. See, that song is like kind of the only song I really like on that album.
You don't like El Scorcho?
I have to re-listen to it. I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was those two songs. And then I think someone told me a really funny story about one of the songs, Pink Triangle.
Yeah, that song is...
Do you want to hear a funny fucking story?
Sure, I'm down.
So my teacher, I can't name any names, obviously, but at high school, she teaches film. She was telling me about, what are your favorite bands? I'm like, I really like, I was just naming, I think Weezer came up, and she's like, funny story about Weezer. So my teacher knew, what's the lead singer's name again? Rivers in college. went to the same college, took the same classes, knew him as a friend. This was after the Blue Album came out, before Pinkerton was released.
That's crazy.
So they were friends. They'd go thrift shopping. They'd, just do things. She had no concept that he was, sort of underground big at that point.
Yeah.
And the song Pink Triangle is about her.
No, she was the lesbian girl?
Yeah, but that's the thing. She wasn't gay.
She's
not gay. So this is what she said. This is hilarious. She's like, the song Pink Triangle? I'm like, yeah. She's like, so that's about me because Rivers thought I was gay, but I wasn't gay.
That's so funny.
Isn't that
That's
fucking hilarious?
hilarious.
And so Rivers had a thing for her, but was like, oh, she's gay. But she wasn't. It's the best.
That's an awesome story. Wow, that's great.
I was like, what? That's so random.
People should listen to this podcast just to hear that story.
I know.
That's how you should sell this episode.
I don't have interesting anecdotes, but that was a funny
that's
story
great.
that I heard.
That's hilarious. Because I was hearing that song and I was like, that's the song where I'm just like, okay, this is a little bit like not uncouth, you know?
Yeah.
It's a little bit just like of the 90s, you know?
Yeah.
No one in 2018 would write a song.
It's in the 90s vacuum of just like, you enter the 90s like, oh, there's that. That doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah, no one in 2018 in their right mind would write a song about liking a girl, but she's a lesbian. You would just be like, it's kind of
but
shitty.
it's done in such a like an innocent way.
It's a very earnest way.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like
it's not like fuck her. Yeah.
dumb lesbian. It's just like, I'm an idiot. Of course she's a lesbian.
Yeah.
But she's not. That's funny.
How did we get on the top of Weezer? I don't really remember.
I don't know.
But anyway, Pinkerton for me, I'll have to re-listen to it. But the production is really rad.
It's an interesting. I was talking about Weezer's like catalog of songs. You know, like any band that puts out a lot of music, some of it starts to get disingenuous because you feel like they're just sort of writing songs.
So what I was gonna say about that is that seems so fucking true to me because the Blue album is the debut
and it's great.
It's fucking awesome. Like it's considered a masterpiece by many people.
All the songs are just bangers. They're just fucking good.
And that idea of like that shit has been saved up and bottled up and then kind of released in a cascade of awesomeness.
Yeah.
And then and then the label's like, that was great, good job. So you guys want to do it again? And they're like,
fuck.
Yeah, hold on. Hold on one sec. And then then it becomes like pulling out shit, you know?
Yeah, well, it's like you hear the term like album cuts a lot. You know, like just like we have to cut a song just for the album. And I get that. And you listen to like all of Weezer's albums coming out after that, and like they have like one hit off each album, which is I sort of feel like you can probably put out as a single songwriter one like really, really hit, massively popular song every like 6 months, maybe. You know, maybe you'll have enough like
hit song every 6 months.
I just mean like as far as like that's when your inspiration will sort of get like filled back up that you can write like a good song.
That's like a realistic.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like you think about what the turnaround, they probably wrote all their songs in like, I don't know, maybe a year and a half for each album and like recorded it.
Yeah.
And then it's out. It's like every 2 years, you know. Now they put out like 2 albums between 2017 and 2018. I think Weezer just put out 2 albums.
What do you think about Pacific Daydreamer?
I fucking hate that.
Isn't that amazing that Weezer's changed that much?
Well, it's you respect it because you're not writing the Blue album over and over again. But at the same time, part of me is like, maybe you should just write the Blue album over and over.
Well, no,
again.
I mean, this is another great topic is like talking about bands and when they tap out, because I think a lot of bands start to run dry around the third album.
I agree.
Generally, either the third album is like a second wind or it's the start of the end, the beginning of the end. You know what I mean? And then if they're smart, they'll stop. And I think that is like, for example, Nirvana is sort of encapsulated in...
Well, they stopped for a different reason.
No, I know. I know. And this is what I tell people all the time because I truly think this. The Kurt Cobain dying, obviously a tragedy.
Yeah.
Not a tragedy for Nirvana, though, because
they
will forever be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Their name can't be tarnished.
Sure.
And the problem, and that was, In Utero was their third album. And so a lot of times bands go over that mark and they fuck things up, honestly.
Yeah, because it
takes a really good band to not fuck it up.
You either try and do the same exact thing,
but better, I guess.
But then it's like, it's never going to be better because nothing is going to be as genuine as those early songs.
And then you're fighting nostalgia too.
Exactly.
That's another powerful
So sometimes,
force.
insider into like Sad Park, for example, I was like, we haven't written like a fast song in a while. We should like try and write a fast song. And the more I was thinking about it, because it's like, oh yeah, we need a new fast song. But then you think about it and you're like, why? Like, just play the old fast songs. People like that. We don't need a new one, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's the sort of like, it's the same thing with like a video game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the sequel, if it's just the same game but better, great. Once you get to the fourth or the fifth game, like Call of Duty, you're like, I got it. Like, I know what this game is. I know what's going to happen. So I think music's the same way. I think the best thing you can do is change something enough that it gives you more stuff to like play with. Like, Bomb the music industry is great. They put out like 6 albums. The first 3 albums, it was just Jeff Rosenstock, and like he would have a live band with him when he toured around, but it was like him and like crazy synthesizers and a drum machine, and then I think his buddy played bass.
Yeah.
And that was the first 3 albums, and it was just ridiculous. And then the 4th album, he was like, fuck it, live band. You know? So it's like...
That was a huge leap.
Similar, but it was the same sort of style, but something had changed enough that it was...
New.
It was new. And then he put out 3 albums with a live band, and then he was like, Bomb the music industry's over. I think that's a great example of how you can keep the same sort of vibe going on, but change enough that it stays interesting and it gives you new stuff to play with.
And I also think that a solution to that problem could actually just be retiring the moniker, the name.
Yeah, and just starting something new.
Starting something new, because I mean, part of a band that's an element of a band that's cool is you have a name, and then you have the legacy, right? And you have the discography. And if someone were to stumble upon your band 10 years after they were made, you have this discography of music, right? They can see the whole change, which it's up to you whether you think that's a cool thing or not. Like, they started with their first album, then by their 10th, they're like a totally different band.
I mean, I think that's really cool. You know, I think a band like the Frights is a good example. Like,
they had a new single.
They have a new single. It's okay. I'm kind of into it. I wish they did some different stuff. It sounds like, it's not surf anymore, which is my point.
It's more just like punk.
It's like a pop punk song.
Yeah.
Almost, you know? They're getting dangerously close to like that pop punk stuff, which is fine, I guess.
Dangerously.
But like their first stuff was just like this surf punk, just simple, catchy, you know.
And shameless, man. They were just like, this is what we are.
They were just like, yeah, we just write catchy songs that are ostensibly all the same.
Yeah. And
it was great, you know, and you loved it. But
But,
it's cool to see that sort of shift. Fiddler is the same thing too, you know.
I don't listen to that kind of stuff anymore.
You don't listen to Fiddler?
No.
I mean, it was definitely a high school thing for me, but still, like, their old stuff was just like gnarly. Like, it was just like, I drink cheap beer, fuck you.
Some of the best live shows I've ever been to, for sure.
Fiddler, oh, great.
So much fun.
Definitely.
So much energy. The crowd is so into it. But musically, it just doesn't, hit that fucking button for me anymore.
Their new stuff, or when you listen to the old stuff still?
Just the old stuff. I see I'm not following what's going on.
I get that. They put out a new single. It's disingenuous. It's called Alcohol. And this is going to sound messed up, so I'm very, very, very glad that the singer got his shit together and got sober and all that sort of stuff.
I know what you're going to say.
What?
I think I know what you're going to say.
It's okay. If he's sober and the whole last album was about him getting sober and like figuring his shit out, why the fuck is he putting out a song called Alcohol where he's like, give me some alcohol. It's what I want. It's just like,
we get it.
I don't know the whole story. Maybe he got sober from drugs, but he's still drinking. I don't know. But it's still kind of like, if it feels like he's not like buying what he's selling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Like he has now this shtick and he's like, I got to stick to it.
Exactly. As opposed to like writing something else.
And he made us think that there was this sort of character arc happening where it's like, I'm sober and this. And so it's like, wow. So the new music is going to come from a different perspective.
It's still going to be energetic, but it's going to be different, about different subject matter, maybe about
because that's no longer topical in his life.
Exactly. And so
whatever.
When he put out that song, I was just like, okay, I didn't, it just seemed kind of fake to me.
Yeah. So I kind of stopped with the the whole like I'm just burnt out on it, and
I mean, I get that too.
But I think my thoughts on whether a band should continue on and change. I like to see progression, but at the same time, you can strategically like end your band in a way that just leaves behind a really succinct legacy.
Yeah.
And I think that's something not enough people think about, because it requires a lot of forethought. You have to think way into the future, what you're going to create, what you could potentially make. But in the long run, I think it's much appreciated by musicians and fans, because if you just delve into this fucking stupid place that no one wants you to go and you destroy your name, it can fuck stuff up. And it's like, you can just, retire the name, make something else, do like your little solo side thing, and fuck around, like do whatever you want over there, but keep the name.
Yeah. So like, not to go back into bomb the music industry or whatever, although I am.
No, just kidding.
I'm doing it. Perfect example, 6 albums ends, Jeff Rosenstock's like, bomb the music industry's done.
Over.
Fucking 2 years later, puts out We Cool, which was like his first big solo album as Jeff Rosenstock. And it's like, it is similar to Bomb, but it's a lot sort of like indier and poppier, and it's not as insane, which is cool because like he was getting older. And if he put out the Jeff Rosenstock stuff as Bomb the music industry, everyone would just be like, what is this? Like,
Exactly.
They would just be like, you have like a weird country-ish song on here. All these songs are slow. I don't get what this shit is.
Fuck you.
Just like none of these songs are at 300 beats per minute. Bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, it's a strategy.
Exactly.
And we don't like to think about that kind of stuff as musicians. That's kind of like almost like a marketing thing.
It's also like, we're both young. You're like 18, 17?
17.
So I'm 21. I'm 18 to 24. We're close enough in age where
Close.
It's like, although I'm getting closer to like being an adult, and it's weird to sort of say goodbye to shit.
Yeah.
Like
what?
Like just like I was listening to like old Pangea, like Jelly Jam and Night of the Living Dummy.
Was that when they were just Pangea?
Yeah,
Not
that was
Together
before
Pangea?
they had to change the name to Together Pangea. So like that's the stuff I was listening to in high school, and I was just sort of listening to it, and I was like, I've been out of high school for long enough that I could like reminisce about it and just be like, man, I will never feel the way I felt about bands again. You know what I mean? I'll never be young enough and like energetic enough about that sort of stuff again, because I have these more experiences and I'm growing up. There's more things in my life that I have to devote attention to. And it was a really scary thought to sort of be like, oh, I'm going to have to give up like that teenager at a show sort of feeling.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of just like wanting to just like run in a mosh pit and like at shows now, I mean, like I'll go crazy at a Jeff show, but like at most shows, I'm like, I'm not going to mosh. Like I can't hurt my hands. Like I'm going to be fucked if I hurt my hands.
Oh my
Whereas
God.
when I was 16 or 17, like I would not
a fucking care in the world.
you wouldn't care about that. And I think it's very similar, just like, as you get older as a musician, you don't want to throw that away. And it can be like, oh, if I end this band, even though you'll keep making music, it sort of feels like you're like, because most bands start when people are in like their early 20s.
or earlier.
Or earlier, yeah. So when you throw that away, it's very similar to just like throwing away
Your youth,
Yeah.
your childhood.
Exactly.
It's a great fucking point. I mean, I felt like for a long time that if I stopped being in the band I was in, then that was it for me as a musician.
Yeah, which is not clearly
No,
not true.
no, it's like it's like the biggest lie that musicians tell themselves is you're in this project, you're balls deep, right? You've been in there these people so well. A lot of the times they're like your closest friends, and you kind of can convince yourself that it's either you make it with like this first band or whatever,
or you're done. Yeah.
or you're done. And the truth is, I mean, adulthood is inevitably going to force all of us to kind of quit the band. At least you won't have the same amount of dedication.
Your relationship towards music changes.
Yeah,
Your relationship to everything changes.
I mean,
when
I
you're older.
think for me, like I'm at a stage in my life where I'm graduating. I'm I feel like the pressure of adulthood in it is being on set, and music for me is starting to become way more realistic and way more sort of thinking about things professionally, which I hate.
Sure. I mean, I get that too. Like, I do, like the band stuff, which is fun for me. Ladyfingers is very an artistic sort of venture for me. But like when I'm drumming with like Sad Park or something, it's, I don't want to say it's more like a business, but it's more of like, I treat it professionally. It's like, okay, I'm here. I'm ready to like play these parts, just get this stuff done. And I think that's because I joined the band when I was like 20 and not in high school.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay,
I'm here to perform my function.
And you're
have
here
a
to
good
work.
time, play.
It's the same thing. Like I said, I was going to school for music. So my relationship to classical music is not like, wow, art. It's like, yeah, the technical side of music, the theoretical side of it is so much more important to me and so much more apparent to me in everything I do than it was when I was like your age.
Yeah.
And that relationship changes. And it's like so much so now that like sometimes I don't even listen to music for fun because I'm just so, enveloped by it. Like in high school, I would listen to like jazz and classical music all the time. And now that I'm just like doing that, I'm like, I don't,
it doesn't
sometimes you're just like
hit you in the same way.
Or it's just like, okay, I've been playing this Mozart excerpt for fucking 4 hours today.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to Mozart anymore. Or
Who
like,
can blame you?
Or like, I've been playing with Sad Park for 3 hours today, playing this like indie punk stuff. Like, I don't want to listen to indie punk music right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like, you're in it.
You're just in it. I totally agree. And I think once you shed that sort of skin of hey, it doesn't have to be a make or break it situation. Like you're going to be alive for a long time. I think music is kind of what is that word I'm trying to use? Inextricably?
Inexplicably? Wow.
Inexplicably tied. Music is inexplicably tied to our youth for a lot of people.
Oh yeah. Well, there are so many different like ways to express yourself with music because there's so many different types of music. So I think when you're young and you're just trying to find your identity, it's very easy to cling to music as like when I was in middle school, I was like, Blink-182 is what I love. And that was my identity as a 7th grader.
Yeah.
And then I got to high school and I was like, ska music is what I love. And that was my identity. Then I got to college and I was like, well, I'm in the music industry and that's my identity. And you are living that, when you're young. When I'm 40, like my dad is not like Jimmy Buffett is my identity, He's just, he just listens to it.
It's going to be weird when we're older. Like, see, our identities with our music is always changing. Like,
yeah,
to an extent, but I feel like eventually you can settle on something that is at your core kind of what defines you.
Yeah. So I think that's like, I guess what I was trying to get at is like, it's the same way like you'll see kids in like high school, or like at shows and they're just like dressed very flamboyantly. They're trying to show everyone like, this is who I am because they're trying to figure out who they are. But once you know who you are, you don't have to sort of express it so intensely because you are just confident in it,
Yeah.
Like my dad loves Van Morrison and Jimmy Buffett, or whatever, and the Eagles, but he's not like wearing their shirts all the time and like constantly like quoting their lyrics. Like,
yeah,
I think it's just, you just get old.
Yeah. And I mean, musicians probably interpret music and funnel it into their life in different ways. I know, for example, when we write, we're always going to be taking from what we're listening to and what we feel is our identity.
Sure.
I
was far away from the microphone. Sure.
And I know that, for example, when I like the thing that would define me, and it has for the past 3 years, is like, I love Elliott Smith. That's kind of my foundation. And I don't listen to him very much anymore. Like I just kind of, because I am so familiar with every song. I can, play every song, can sing every song.
Yeah.
But I don't have to even always have them in my headphones. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
because it just becomes an intrinsic part of you. That's how I am with Bond. I haven't listened to a Bond music industry song in like a month.
Yeah.
I'm sure you haven't listened to Elliott Smith in like a month.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm the same way.
You're just like, I got it. Like, I know what this is about.
I mean, I love to revisit.
Yeah,
obviously.
every now and then you're just like, it's like a nice treat.
But it doesn't, it's no longer like, you'd think it would be a day-to-day sort of operation, but it's not.
Sure.
I guess. Can you talk to me a little bit about what your process is for writing a song? Like when you sit down to write a song, what exactly are you trying to achieve? I know you play guitar as your medium of writing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay, so when I'm writing like a Ladyfingers song, I don't write if I don't have a reason to write.
Interesting.
Which is sort of like okay, when I'm playing drums with Sad Park, for example,
yeah,
I'll write the drum part even if I don't really have like a sick idea for a drum part, because that's my job. It's just, you know what I mean? I'm just like, okay, I have to fucking write this part, figure out something that works.
You're not going to halt and be like, hold on,
guys.
I need to find the perfect drum part.
Yeah, the perfect beat. Should I put my bass pedal on E or what's going to be more effective?
Well, let's go.
You're
we don't give a
who
fuck.
Fucking cares? Right? So with Ladyfingers, though, it's a lot more, I will capitalize on whatever emotion I'm feeling. You know, because writing songs for me is like, it is a very cathartic experience. It helps me get my emotions out. So I haven't written a song since me and my girlfriend got together.
Yeah.
You know, because you're happy. I don't have a reason to write songs.
There's no stress.
There's no stress. There's no depression. Like Couches is a big album. Everyone is like, people like that, you know? They like, I would say that's our most popular, you know, EP. All those songs were written about getting over the girl I dated in high school. They were written in like a summer. You know, it was like me getting over her, me getting drunk and trying to like other people, me being sad because all my friends had jobs and I didn't, and I was depressed, you know, trying to just like find a new person to be with and like trying to find love again. You know, I'm Scared, Sad Bark, Couches, all those songs. 3 in the AM. It's about just being sad because you're drunk at a party and everyone's either banging or passed out and you're just by yourself and still up.
Yeah.
You know? So I really capitalize on those emotions. So I will write 7 or 8 songs in like a week or two that are all, I think, really real because it's me with a couple beers in me and a guitar, no one's home, and I have my phone down and I just go, you know? And I'll play whatever I hear in my head and I'll just yell as loud as I can, as loud as I want to get my emotions out, you know? And then I'll take that raw emotion, you know, the 7 or 8 songs I wrote in 2 weeks that are just, you know, kind of sloppy, not the best formula.
They're not like super refined.
They're not
yet.
super refined, but it's like, okay, I had a verse, a chorus, a verse where I didn't have some of the words for the second verse because I was just freestyling it, you know, and then like a breakdown that I improv, and then the chorus again. And then I'll take those recordings a couple weeks afterwards when I'm not in the heat of that emotion anymore. And then I'll refine them. Then I'll go, okay, the first verse is great. The chorus is great. Second verse, I ran out of steam for what I was feeling. So then you sort of have to go back in and like, okay, what would make sense lyrically? Then your bridge, your breakdown, or whatever it's going to be, you're like, okay, let's find a cool melodic thing to do here. Ooh, I really like that. And then you sort of finish it up and bring it to the guys. And
yeah, so how much are you working with the actual band?
So some songs I'll sort of have like, I'll send it to them right after I write it on the guitar and it's not totally refined yet. And so we'll work some of the stuff out, you know, or we'll be jamming it and I'll have like an immediate thought like, oh, instead of this, what if we do this? Like, PJ, can you play this part, you know? Or like, Sam, you should do a ripping solo here. But a lot of times it is like, I totally finish the song by myself. I'm like, here's the finished song. I know what the drum parts I want to have are. You know, I have the lyrics. I have an idea for a solo. You know, I know what the rhythm guitar part is because I wrote it. And then I'm just like, okay, guys, here's the song. We're going to play it.
And then of course, they have there's sort of space to write a cool bass line, and you can bounce off
sort
that.
of. I mean, it
Or
is.
are you actually writing out?
It is.
every
Well, you listen to the Ladyfingers bass lines, and they're pretty simple. You know, like our songs are pretty. A lot of them are kind of fast. You know, so there's not a whole lot of space, and they're busy too. I
Yeah.
definitely drum very busily with the Ladyfingers.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of space for like these crazy bass lines, so a lot of times it's just pretty simple and just tight rhythmically. But yeah, every now and then, like if it's just like, hey, I have an idea for a song, let's jam on this, you know, then we can sort of like add bass lines to it.
Yeah.
A lot of the writing sort of comes into play when we do the recording. Because
really?
we'll have like
Kind of late in the game.
yeah, because a lot of times
Late-stage
like
stuff.
me and Sam will write together, you know, and like we haven't sat Kyle or PJ down to like learn the songs yet, but we're like, this is the song, like this is tight. And so like sometimes I'll record the guitar parts instead of Kyle. Sometimes Kyle will record them if he knows the songs. But then when we're in there, like in Sam's bedroom or in my garage recording, we'll be like, what if we have like a riff going over this part? That would be cool. Or like, ooh, let's put some bells in here. You know, like
Yeah,
that
'cause
would
you
be
can
really pretty.
Hear everything under a microscope, and it's like in your control. Like the power of
Yeah.
editing and stuff.
Oh yeah.
There's you suddenly realize that physically you don't have to be doing the things that are like. So what is your thought briefly on sort of you can layer 50 guitars
Yeah. So
if you want.
So my thought is like you should jam the song a bunch and you should figure out what it's going to be with your live instrumentation,
First.
right? Yeah. So like this is the complete song. This is how we're doing it. Like lots of Ladyfinger songs have like 7 or 8 guitar things going on, you know, bells being played, melodica, all this
Yeah.
sort of stuff. But we always knew like, okay, at the end of the day, the song is just me and an acoustic guitar. So that is it. So we can make that work with 2 guitars, a bass, and drums.
So start with a good foundation.
Yeah.
So
So
everything works live.
exactly. So you're not pulling a Radiohead where you're like the core of this song is piano. I know no one plays piano in the band, but
Yeah.
this is a piano. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, it's done.
Or like the song doesn't work if you don't have an orchestra.
exactly.
You know, like something
it's just
like
like,
that.
oh, all 7 of these guitar parts are like crucial to the song.
Yeah. That's the big dilemma I have with Hell Kite is like, I don't have a live band. First of all, writing for me is very odd because I don't have anyone to bounce things off of.
Yeah.
I can't real time try something. You know what I mean? I can't be like, you try that. Okay, it doesn't work. I have to commit it. And thank God I don't work with tape because that would be a nightmare.
Oh,
Because the
yeah.
amount of editing I do and re-recording and rewriting is insane. Like I basically make a bare bones structure of the song. That's an electronic drum machine just to keep track of time, and then vocals, and then my main rhythm parts, and I get the structure solidified. Then I try and overlap instruments, synthesize whatever I need, and see how it affects the flow. And then from there, I'm just going in with scissors and be like cutting out 8 bars, cutting out that, fixing that, extending that, and then maybe even adding other sections. That's before I've recorded my drums. That's before I've recorded the final vocals. So like for someone with a band to bounce things off of, like our processes are different.
Well, it is very different just because I get the sense that you go through it a lot more like a producer,
Possibly.
whereas I go through it a lot more as like a performer or just like a writer, you know? So that's different. And you have access to all this stuff,
Yeah.
which is cool. Because if I had access to that stuff, I would definitely be writing differently. But I think that it's not totally different because I'm writing the majority of the Ladyfingers songs just by myself. So like the technology is not as is good, but it's still like I'll record myself on the voice memos on my iPhone, and then I'll take that recording, plug headphones into it, and go into my garage and figure out a drum part along to my acoustic guitar and me yelling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh, I like that. So that's how I'll figure out like an idea for a drum part. And then like I'll play the recording of me playing it with an acoustic guitar, and then I'll be like riffing along to it and be like, ooh, this would be cool for like a little thing there.
Yeah.
Or like try and sing harmonies to it, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we have the same
I feel like
beginning.
when you're a single writer, you have to write that way. You know what I mean?
You do.
So even though I have a band to sort of it's not so much that they bounce ideas off. It's a lot of like, sometimes there'd be like, okay, I don't know if this works, Grant. You know, it's just sort of like someone there to like put it
Someone
in check.
to check you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do is,
Or
I
like-
get it, but it's not going to work.
Or the best thing is like, sometimes I'll be like, ooh, we should go into like 7/8 here. And they'll be like, Grant,
Nope.
we can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how.
See, I don't, that's funny you say that. I don't have someone to check me. So if I write a song that is balls to the walls crazy,
It's
you'll
just
know why. It's just
gonna
because
be like
I'm
that,
fucking
yeah.
unhinged. I mean, I use like my friends, my musician friends, people in Good Boy, my dad as like checkers.
Uh-huh.
I'll bring them in and they'll be like, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
And
we'll
I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Like I already knew that, but I just wanted to
Sure.
see.
Or sometimes like I said, like I'll write 7 songs in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
4 of them are really tight. 3 of them, you're like, I'll send them to Sam and they'll be like, I like the first verse. Everything else is kind of shitty. I'm like, I get that.
Yeah.
So it's the same way,
Yeah.
you know?
I wish we had more time to talk. We're
Yeah,
coming up on the hour.
sure. I get that.
It's been really fun talking to you. I mean, we have so many like you're so with it in terms of the way you think about music because you have so many different experiences. You have like your classical training, you have playing in a band, playing as a drummer and a guitarist. I feel like we can vibe off so many different topics.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
This is really fun.
To finish off, I always ask, what is your desert island band? So this is if you could have one band ever, you got to
mean,
choose one.
You know what my answer
I know.
is.
But are you sure?
Okay.
Because that's all you get.
Can I lump Jeff and Bomb the Music Industry together?
You're pushing it. I'll say you can if you want to do that.
Okay. Because that's like the obvious answer. But let's say like besides that, because I feel like I get bored of that eventually.
That's something you got to think about. You know, will you get super burnt out? What has a lot of variety that you could really have forever?
Dude, honestly, this is gonna sound lame because like I'm not even a huge fan of this band at all. But I'm just, as far as I'm just thinking about like cool different aspects of their catalog.
Uh-huh.
I honestly think it might be the Beatles.
Yeah.
Has someone said that before?
George said that.
What was his reasoning? Do you remember?
He just thinks the Beatles are, I don't want to speak for him, but basically epitome of good music. Like everything is so perfect, but not perfect. You know, like there's just musicianship wise, the Beatles are the highest standard.
Okay.
A lot of ways.
I think Ringo's trash at drumming.
Yeah.
So I would
That's fair to
disagree
say.
with the musicianship.
But he means to be
I-
trash.
Yeah, he does.
It's deliberately
Yeah.
trash.
I get that. I think the reason I say the Beatles different because I don't know. We're talking about like bands growing.
Mhm.
They have so much different shit. They have like the early, just like poppy good stuff. You know, they have like Abbey Road, which is insane. They have all their weird artsy shit after they went to fucking India. You know, their later
Yeah.
stuff was like Helter Skelter is like kind of hard.
Yeah.
You know, they have like lots of just good variety. But I feel like I would get really over the fucking British accent when they sing. I feel like
That's the deal breaker.
I feel like that would be the only thing. So besides Bomb the Music Industry, I would probably say the Beatles too.
It's almost like a rigged question because I feel like I'm gonna get so many people that say the Beatles.
Because it's just okay. Can I know we're going a little
Go
over.
ahead. Go ahead.
Is there a band? Because Bomb the Music Industry is this for me, but like, is there a band that if they got back together, you would drop everything and go see them? Like you would pull money out of your savings.
Yeah.
Like I would pay probably $3,000 to see a full Bomb the Music Industry set.
Wow.
Like plane ticket, hotel, you know, everything I would need to get there. I would do that.
I have the same thing.
What band?
I would choose. Do you know Shudder to Think? I think I showed you them.
Oh, gee, I think a while ago though.
Yeah, it was like when I first met you. I was like, listen to this
Yeah.
band. They, for me and my dad, we share the same basically favorite band. I would drop it all to fucking see them live. They're so sick. And they're so small and really really cult following vibe.
Yeah.
But I would, definitely. But then the same thing is like, I don't know if I could do that as my desert island pick.
Yeah. Or like for me, another band, two bands, Rage Against the Machine.
Really?
In like the mid 90s when they were like big,
Yeah.
like original lineup. That would be sick to see live. You know?
Oh yeah, of course. Of course.
And then A Tribe Called Quest.
Oh, that's a great pick.
Oh no, I take it back. I take it all back. The Beastie Boys.
Really?
If MCA came back from the dead, like
Yeah.
I would just be like,
Back from wherever.
oh
he
my
fucking
god,
is
the
now.
Beastie Boys are so sick.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the two bands you're picking, like they have an obvious sort of like perpetuator.
Yeah.
The Beastie Boys are huge in that scene.
God, I might say just throw a monkey wrench in it. I'm gonna say the Beastie Boys are my desert island band.
Woo! Over Beatles and bomb music industry.
I love the Beastie Boys.
I love that. I love your answer.
Dude, I like a lot of dumb bands. Like the Beastie Boys are insane. I also love Sugar Ray, like unabashedly.
I don't know who that is.
Sugar Ray?
No.
Oh my god, they're this horrible band from the 90s. And they had 5 hit songs that are all just like poppy trash, but I love it. And they were like a punk band before that. They went from like this gnarly punk music that was just like fast and intense and kind of shitty to like just like imagine just like typical 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s, like California alt rock with just like acoustic guitar, you know? Oh god, it's great. I've seen them live. It was insane because it's like all this like just super happy, beachy, like just shitty music that I love. And then they played their old punk stuff, and the most intense mosh I've ever been in my entire life.
That's fucking
was
hilarious.
To Mean Machine by Sugar Ray. They opened for Smash Mouth too. So
well, that gives me an idea of what's going on.
They're that type of band.
So your answer then is the Beastie Boys.
Is the Beastie Boys. You
Beautiful.
know, just I don't want to be the same as George, so I'm gonna say the Beastie Boys.
I shouldn't have told you that George picked Beatles.
Well,
I think that was actually his second pick.
I'm a hipster at
I
heart.
don't remember what his first pick was. But anyways, folks, there you have it. That's Hell Kite episode 3 with Grant
Boobar.
There you go. Of the Ladyfingers, playing drums, writing music. He also plays drums in Sad Park.
It's true.
Any albums or things that are coming out that you want to plug or hype or shows, anything?
Sad Park plays around a lot. Ladyfingers plays around a lot. Follow us on Instagram.
And you guys are on Spotify.
We're on Spotify. Check that out. Yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff. Oh, all right, Grant, say bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.